It all kicks off with the city engulfed in chaos as desperate screams echo everywhere. Seeing this, our protagonist realizes the situation is dire and he needs to move fast. On the streets, bizarre creatures with massive mouths emerge and begin attacking people. Meanwhile, in an online games chat, everyone is freaking out about a zombie apocalypse. But one player complains that his teammates' parents keep barging into their rooms and making noise. Linfan then uses voice chat to ask a low health ally if his girlfriend is around. His teammate is floored, asking if he's some kind of prophet because the girl was literally attacking him. The young woman on his lap asks why he suddenly stopped mid-match. Turning toward him, the girl reveals a horrific mouth and lunges at him without warning. Despite his ally's pleas for help, Linfan simply tells him to focus on taking the tower. The protagonist celebrates the win, remarking how much easier it was without dead weight on the team. Suddenly, a knock comes at the door. It's Liu Weiwei, his neighbor, pleading for help. He opens up, and she explains that some crazy people are outside and she needs a place to hide. The young man agrees to help but first asks her to close her eyes, creating a tense moment. The neighbor readily obeys, saying she'd do anything he asked in exchange for safety. In the blink of an eye, a bright flash slices through the air toward the woman with her eyes shut. Linfan then remarks that he helped her, and now she won't turn into one of those monsters. Just then, a system notification pops up, showing he earned 1 point for taking down a zombie. Our hero introduces himself as Linfan, a simple architect who is just working overtime. He thinks to himself that a freak accident dragged him into this whole apocalyptic mess. He remembers trying to help his beautiful neighbor, but she suddenly transformed and bit him. In the moment he was about to perish, the zombie apocalypse system successfully activated. And just like that, he was reborn completely different, with a system window displaying his new stats. Looking at the screen, he understands the system rewards attribute points for dispatching zombies. Suddenly, another monster appears in the hallway and starts feasting on his former neighbor's remains. The creature, covered in multiple eyes, pauses its meal and stares at the protagonist with a confused look. Without a second thought, the tentacle-mouthed beast charges straight for our hero. With a smirk, Linfan says he just wanted to confirm something and tells the creature to keep its distance. With a single strike, he defeats the foe and receives another system point for the elimination. His next move is to lock and barricade all doors and windows to avoid attracting more of the undead. Sometime later, exhausted and surrounded by fallen figures, he says not to worry, he'll help them all. But he notices something odd and wonders why Weiwei's body isn't reanimating like the others. It dawns on him that she might have been bitten beforehand, which he figures will be a problem. The protagonist complains that the smell is going to be awful, and it'd be a headache if he were seen with them. To solve this, he ties up all the neighbors he found along the way, preventing any future trouble. Afterward, the young man simply drags them all to a corner of the hallway and leaves them bound. At that moment, he hears a strange noise from the end of the hall and snaps to alert. Peering into the darkness, he spots the silhouette of a person in a wheelchair approaching. The figure reveals itself as a hideous zombie with multiple red eyes and tentacles for a mouth. In an instant, the abomination lunges at the protagonist with incredible speed, ready to strike. With a clean blow, our hero defeats the creature, recognizing it as Uncle John and wondering how he got upstairs. Joking about the situation, he thanks the zombie for bothering to bring the wheelchair all the way to him. Next, the young man uses the chair to transport his tied-up neighbors, promising to return it later. He then leaves the wheelchair and its contents in front of apartment 203. Outside, the hero reflects that even though it's the end of the world, he still needs to find supplies to survive. Looking at a dumpster, he wonders if zombies are considered wet or recyclable waste and groans about being alone. But just then, he senses an odd presence and turns his head toward one of the buildings. On an apartment balcony, he spots a bald man watching him, recognizing him as Uncle Joe's son. The bald neighbor waves with a strange grin, acting as if nothing is wrong with the world. Linfan remembers this guy used to rob him. Even after calling the cops, he got beat up again. Back in the present, our hero calls out, asking his neighbor if he's got a problem with him down there. The bald man is startled by the kid's nerve to shout so loudly, thinking he has no fear of attracting zombies. But then he figures it's a good thing the kid is an idiot, as it will make him easier to manipulate. The man holds up a sign, asking Linfan to fetch food and drinks and bring them to his door. With a calm expression, the protagonist flatly refuses to follow his neighbor's demand. This infuriates the bald man, who curses the kid for not obeying his instructions. He calms down and writes that if the boy helps, he'll take him to a secret base he knows about. Despite the new offer, our hero stands his ground and once again refuses to help. The neighbor is completely unhinged by the young man's attitude and furiously crumples the paper. He then screams that if the kid wants to perish so badly, he'll grant his wish and starts throwing things at him. The objects hurled by the bald man shatter on the ground, but the protagonist remains unfazed. The commotion attracts several zombies, which swarm toward the still unflustered young man. Watching the scene unfold, the bald neighbor laughs and taunts the boy, assuming he's too scared to run. But without hesitation, our hero dispatches one of the monsters with a single blow, earning another point. A system notification immediately pops up, confirming the elimination and the point awarded. Observing this, the bald man is stunned by the kid's strength and can't process what just happened. He then points out there's still one zombie left, sneering that idiots who challenge him deserve what they get. The The protagonist agrees that one remains and reveals he's hoisting a zombie onto his shoulders. With all his might, he hurls the creature directly at his neighbor's balcony. The bald man panics, watching the monster fly toward him and screaming about what the kid is doing. The creature lands right on top of the man, attacking him mercilessly on his apartment balcony. As the screams fade, our protagonist grabs a bicycle and rides off alone into the dark street. He reaches a supermarket, and a new system notification appears, granting him one more point. More point notifications pop up as he deals with the infected inside the store. Inside, he playfully deals with the zombie manager at the register and gathers all the supplies he needs. With his bike and provisions, he plans to find a safe spot to farm and get better gear. Suddenly, a loud noise grabs his attention, and a blinding light washes over his face. Looking back, the young man sees a bus barreling down the street and wonders where it came from. The vehicle's engine roar attracts a massive horde of zombies that sprints after it. The bus rapidly closes in on our hero, who raises a hand to signal the driver to stop. The intense headlights blind him for a second, triggering a painful memory from his past. In a car, a woman complains she can't stand the boy anymore and demands the driver get rid of him. In the back, the small child clutches his teddy bear and sobs, missing his mom. This infuriates the woman, who screams at the child, threatening him to make him stop. She finally loses her patience, grabbing the steering wheel of the moving car to force a stop. The struggle between the two adults in the front seat terrifies the little boy even more. With tears in his eyes, the child stares at the scene, horrified and confused. Abruptly, the car slams into another vehicle, causing a devastating crash on the highway. Back in the present, a young man from the bus window smirks, asking if he wants a ride. The same guy laughs, saying if they don't pick him up, he can just wait for the zombies to have a snack. Lin Fan stays silent outside, simply observing the situation from atop the bus. Inside, a student with glasses questions his classmates' behavior, reminding him they should be helping each other. The bully yells that in the apocalypse, he does whatever he wants and viciously attacks the boy with glasses. He then declares that with the teacher gone, all the teacher's pets are now under his command. With a cruel grin, the bully decides to be generous and send his classmate out to join the monsters. Without a second thought, he kicks the boy out of the moving bus and onto the street below. The bus continues on, and Lin Fan's reflection in the side mirror shows him being left behind. The driver mocks our hero for carrying a knife, calling him an idiot for thinking he can fight alone. But the protagonist faces the horde and declares with conviction that he is not going down today. He remembers his mother telling him to be a good, brave boy, because one day she would come back for him. Recalling the promise he made to his mother, knife in hand, he resolves to become the person she wanted him to be. With incredible power, our hero launches his kitchen knife directly at the bus. The blade flies true, striking the tire and causing the vehicle to swerve out of control. The bus smashes into a pole, its front windshield shattering from the impact. The bully at the wheel is thrown to the ground, injured, and starts begging for help, crying that he doesn't want to perish. Lin Fan bikes over as the injured bully admits he was wrong and pleads to be saved. Our hero retorts that he isn't sorry, he's just scared because his time is up. With a smile, he informs him that his friend is on his way, and he'll lead them to their reunion. Desperate, the bully screams for the protagonist to come back and not abandon him to the horde. At that moment, the student who was kicked out reappears, now a zombie, right in front of his former classmate. The zombie horde swarms the bus, and the driver's horrified screams echo down the empty street. Meanwhile, Lin Fan pedals away, and a screen displays that his strength is now off the charts. Suddenly, a woman with a child calls out to him from a building window, asking him to wait. The young man stops and asks what she wants as she gestures to the hungry little girl beside her. At the apartment door, the woman falls to her knees, begging for just a little food for her daughter. The protagonist offers her 2 pumpkins and a winter melon, leaving the woman stunned by his generosity. As the woman tries to process this, Lin Fan's eyes lock onto an object inside her home. He spots a decorative sword hanging on the living room wall and takes an interest in it. The owner explains it's a replica from a game and offers him the sword for his protection. With a grin, the young man accepts the gift, and the woman adds that they have no use for it. He thanks her for the weapon and assures them he'll help if they ever need it, while the little girl thinks he's weird. Outside, the young man admires his new Frostmere replica, eager to try it out. At that moment, a woman with pink hair is flung from a building as someone shouts for her to perish. The woman hits the ground hard right in front of the protagonist, who is shocked by the sudden, brutal scene. Looking up, he spots a large man on a balcony, complaining that the woman dared to defy him. The brute lights a cigarette and grumbles about the waste, wondering when he'll find another like her. Our hero sees that the girl's body is covered in wounds and notices a look of pure despair and rage in her eyes. He then recalls that her expression is the same one his father had when his mother left. His eyes filled with anger, the protagonist glares at the man on the balcony and demands to know what he did. The big man gets angry, asking who dares speak to him, thinking he was the only one around. He then bellows that the building is his turf, and he can do whatever he wants with the women there. Sensing the danger, Lin Fan decides he must act to protect the mother and daughter who helped him. Cradling the woman in his arms, he prepares to head up to the 5th floor to confront the villain. The man scoffs at the boy for carrying a body, calling him a loser for caring about such things. In a threatening tone, he tells our hero to get lost or he will live to regret it. The villain retreats into his apartment, complaining about his bad luck running into idiots. He muses that before he never dared to touch women, but now in the apocalypse he can do as he pleases. Suddenly, knocking at his door interrupts his thoughts, startling him. Armed with a baseball bat, he approaches the door, wondering if a zombie is on the other side. The man complains that with zombies in the hall, it'll be harder to find more people to play with. Peeking through the peephole, the man comes face to face with the terrifying visage of the woman he'd attacked. He stumbles back in shock, completely baffled by what's on the other side of his door. Meanwhile, the protagonist is using the woman's limp arm to knock, try and get the villain to open up. The brute feels a wave of relief when he sees it's just the kid and tells him to scram before he gets hurt. With a wicked grin, he thinks that if he screams, the zombies will come and devour the boy alive. But before he can act, our hero shatters the security door with his bare hands. The villain is utterly shocked by the boy's power, wondering if he's even human. Inside the apartment, Lin Fan spots strange implements and realizes they were used to harm the woman. The big man roars in fury, demanding to know why the kid brought a body into his home. The protagonist, with a chilling gaze, declares he brought her to witness the price the villain is about to pay. Sometime later, our hero is dragging the gagged man through the streets toward a police station. The brute struggles and tries to scream, but the gag silences him completely. He then states that bringing a criminal to justice is the most normal thing in the world to do. The villain screams that it's an apocalypse, but the young man calmly replies that he's seen this in movies. Lin Fan calls him a fool for not knowing the difference between fiction and their grim reality. Arriving at the police station, the protagonist simply tosses the bound man inside the building. The brute groans in pain, wondered how the kid is strong enough to throw him like that. He then sneers, saying there's no one left to judge him because the world already ended. But with a sinister smile, the protagonist says he's mistaken. There is indeed someone here. Suddenly, dozens of red points of light appear in the darkness, and the villain stares in terror. The zombified police officers descend upon the villain as our hero says they still seek justice, even in undeath. The next day, a group in an armored car arrives at the Huang City Library for a mission. The driver, staying behind, tells his companions to be extremely careful in there. The group's leader, a woman in a business suit, instructs her men to focus on finding medical textbooks. Upon entering, one of the henchmen sighs in relief, commenting they were lucky there were no zombies. But their leader sharply halts their advance, sensing that something isn't right. Cautiously, she peeks through a crack in a door to ensure the path ahead is clear. One of her subordinates insists everything is fine, and she's just being overly paranoid. She ignores his comment and orders everyone to stop chattering and find the medical section. All at once, Lin Fan appears with a friendly smile and greets the stunned group. They jump back in shock, and one man points at him, thinking he's a talking zombie. Our protagonist clarifies that he's human, but the suspicious leader asks what he's doing here. Holding a book, he replies sarcastically that he's reading, since it is, after all, a library. A henchman whispers to his boss that the kid has a point, but she angrily tells him to shut it. Lin Fan says he doesn't want any trouble and politely asks them to keep their voices down. As he walks away, one of the men recognizes the hero's sword and mutters that the kid is completely insane. The leader then orders her men to stay quiet and avoid confronting him at all costs. She feels a dangerous aura from him and urges her team to grab the books so they can leave. The group quickly gets to work, scouring the shelves for medical books. But the woman freezes once more, seeing the protagonist sitting calmly at a table, reading. The leader's suspicion boils over, and she directly asks him what he wants from them. Our hero explains that they need to properly check out any books they take, as they are public property. The group is flabbergasted, wondering what mental institution he escaped from. The woman asks if he has any clue what's happening outside, calling him completely delusional. Seated calmly, he replies that he's aware of the apocalypse, but otherwise things haven't changed much. The team leader still doubts his words, her face a mask of total disbelief. One of her men gets irritated, saying they should just mind their own business and go. Lin Fan agrees and introduces himself, offering to help if they run into danger on their way back. The group is left speechless by the strange offer, staring at him in utter confusion. After a quick thanks, they decide to flee as fast as possible, convinced he's dangerously unhinged. Alone in the library, our hero laments that they left so quickly without even exchanging names. He decides to focus on studying agriculture to become self-sufficient. Far away in an underground base, a scientist notes that cellular activity in the infected is on the rise. Another researcher asks if this means the monsters are evolving as they analyze a specimen. Two superiors discuss creating an antibody, but the virus is unlike anything they've ever encountered. One of them theorizes the zombies are actually the resurrected dead, living in a new form. Back at the complex, Lin Fan finds the perfect spot to start his community garden. With his sword sheathed on his back, he prepares to apply everything he learned from the books. The young man then shouts to the surrounding buildings, introducing himself and his plan to grow vegetables. But his shouts attract the attention of numerous zombies, who come sprinting in his direction. The undead are no match for him, however, and are easily dispatched one by one. With his sword drawn, the protagonist faces the horde without a shred of fear. With swift, precise movements, he eliminates every last monster, racking up numerous system points. Satisfied with his work, he declares that now he can plant his crops without worrying about zombie attacks. Looking at the bodies on the ground, he concludes no one else is alive nearby and his harvest will be safe. His stomach rumbles and he decides he needs to eat before starting work on his new garden. He then visits the mother and daughter, sharing a meal of instant noodles with them. The woman, worried about the future, says she can't keep accepting free handouts forever. The young man then bluntly asks if there's anything he can do to help their situation. The woman is taken aback by his simple, direct offer to help. Mustering her courage, she says she wants to take her daughter and leave with him for a safer place. The protagonist lights up at the idea and offers to help them move into his neighborhood. The woman is confused by the talk of rent, wondering if they're even on the same planet. Meanwhile, in another city building, a group of survivors struggles to cope with the apocalypse. Suddenly, one of their cell phones rings, startling the man who thinks it might be a rescue team. Answering a call for a man named Chen, he's met with someone asking about renting a house. The guy hangs up, irritated, assuming it's some lunatic playing a prank. He then vents that the apocalypse struck out of nowhere, with no sign of any rescue efforts. But to his astonishment, the phone rings again, the same number being persistent. Furious, he answers and screams at the protagonist, who merely wanted to rent a house for the mother and child. The protagonist hangs up, complaining about how short-tempered people are these days. He then decides to call the man again, leaving the woman beside him utterly baffled. On the other end, the man screams in rage, but Lin Fan calmly restates that he just wants to rent the house. Out of patience, the man agrees to the rental, reveals his location, and dares him to come over. Our hero celebrates, telling the mother and daughter to wait while he secures their new home. Before the woman can protest, the protagonist is out the door, leaving them alone in the apartment. On the rooftop, a colleague asks Chen what happened, and he replies it was just some idiot. His friend then pulls him aside to discuss something serious and important in private. He reveals that with their current supplies, they'll only last for another half a month. The friend suggests they abandon the 4 elderly members of their group to conserve food for the others. With a sinister grin, he offers to handle the problem and also get rid of the other men. He also plans to dispose of the less attractive women, keeping only the prettiest for themselves. The two then leer at the women with malicious intent, agreeing to have some fun. Meanwhile, Lin Fan bikes through streets teeming with zombies, his stats showing an increase in stamina. From atop the building, the survivors spot the young man cycling calmly through the kiosk. One of them shouts for him not to be a fool, thinking he won't get far on a bicycle. The protagonist pedals nimbly, weaving through the monsters as he nears his destination. He arrives at his destination, the luxurious Fang International Group condominium, and is thoroughly impressed. Looking back, he realizes he's managed to shake the horde of zombies that was on his tail. On the rooftop, Chen reassures his group that with him in charge, they'll all eat well and live better. At the same time, the 4 seniors of the group are talking quietly in a corner of the rooftop. A retired soldier says they become a burden, and the world needs the youth to rebuild. A retired military engineer watches on as another senior notes that he's finally come to terms with it. The ex-soldier then asks the engineer if he feels the same, who replies that what matters is survival. A retired teacher consoles her husband, telling him not to apologize for bringing her into this. Simultaneously, Chen and his right-hand man celebrate having swayed the others so easily. The man then reveals his plot to get rid of the elderly, and the other men to have it all for himself. But suddenly, one of the seniors stands up, announcing that they overheard Chen's entire plan. The ex-soldier says they needn't worry, the elderly will simply wait for the end in peace. This sends the other survivors into a panic, and they start screaming to throw the seniors off the building to avoid trouble. Just then, a knock sounds at the rooftop door, and a calm voice calls out for Mr. Chen. The group turns in surprise as the voice identifies itself as the person who called about the rental. Furious, Chen screams at the newcomer, questioning who would joke about such a thing in an apocalypse. Suddenly, the security door is blown off its hinges with tremendous force, startling everyone. Lin Fan then appears in the doorway, apologizing and saying he didn't realize the door was so flimsy. Chen's right-hand man whispers a plan to use the newcomer as bait for the zombies they'll attract. The two share a malicious smile, agreeing on the idea of solving 2 problems at once. Our hero asks who Mr. Chen is, and the man replies that this is his place and he can leave now. The young man thanks him and offers his payment of 5,000 for rent, leaving Chen even more bewildered. Losing his patience, Chen takes the money and tells the kid to stay as long as he wants, as long as he gets lost. As he leaves, the protagonist says thanks and goodbye, leaving the men on the roof utterly confused. He then approaches the seniors and asks if Mr. Zhou Agent is among them, surprising everyone. The young man recognizes the engineer from television, calling him a hero for his work on the nation's weapons technology. The protagonist then asks the seniors if they plan on leaving the rooftop, since it's dangerous outside. The ex-soldier explains they'd rather leave the supplies for the younger generation and not waste resources. With a determined gaze, the young man faces the seniors, his expression shifting to one of intense seriousness. Chen's group is rattled by the boy's look, and their leader realizes he is extremely dangerous. Our hero then offers the seniors his protection, stating he's strong enough to keep them safe. The ex-soldier politely declines, saying they would only slow him down and are just glad to know someone like him exists. But the young man insists, offering them a place in his neighborhood, a proposal that shocks the seniors. Without giving them a chance to refuse, the protagonist takes the seniors by the hand and leads them away. Chen's right-hand man tries to stop them, but the group's leader holds him back, telling him to let them go. Chen explains their plan hasn't changed, and the boy won't interfere with their objectives. With a wicked smile, he reveals they will use the seniors to lure the zombies and get rid of everyone. As they descend the stairs, the protagonist uses his sword to clear the barricades in their path. He then glances up at the building and sees Chen's group watching them from the rooftop's edge. Chen's men begin throwing heavy objects from the roof to attract the attention of the zombies. The seniors are horrified by the youth's cruelty, wondering how they could be so malicious. But the protagonist, with a cold stare, says they're even worse than they imagine and won't stop. The ex-soldier then realizes Chen's group plans to use them as bait for the hungry undead. The retired engineer notices something unusual on the ground and asks his companions about it. He's amazed by the sheer number of zombie bodies scattered across the condominium's courtyard. The ex-soldier doubts anyone has developed a way to dispatch the monsters so easily. With a confident smirk, the protagonist explains he had to clear out the zombies to reach them. The seniors are completely stunned by this revelation, shouting in disbelief at the young man's power. On the rooftop, Chen's men hear nothing, and one wonders why there are so many bodies down there. Chen, skeptical, approaches the ledge to see what happened with his own eyes. After confirming the scene, he's in shock, realizing the boy is far stronger than he ever imagined. In a desperate move, Chen's right-hand man tries to throw one of their own men off the building. The man turns to the group, asking why everyone is giving him such a strange look. The villain then announces that if objects won't lure the zombies, they use the scent of human flesh as bait. Chen praises his subordinate's cleverness as the others cheer for the group's evil plan. Suddenly, screams of pain erupt from the rooftop, and the protagonist whips around in surprise. Zombies have appeared on the roof and are beginning to attack the survivors, who have nowhere to escape. From atop the building, Chen's men watch the outcome of their plan and celebrate the others' misfortune. The seniors are terrified as they see the zombies advancing on the other survivors up there. The protagonist then asks the ex-soldier if he has a car, because his bicycle won't carry everyone. With a smile, he says his bike can't carry this many people and they'll need another ride. He then tells the senior to go on ahead, saying he needs to take care of something before they regroup. The seniors try to convince him to come with them, but the young man insists they are more valuable alive than he is. The retired engineer tells the others to calm down, trusting that the young man has a plan. Meanwhile, the protagonist faces the zombie horde, mocking their pathetic physical stamina. All by himself, he confronts the crowd of undead piling up against a locked security gate. From the rooftop, Chen and his partner watch the scene, wondering why the boy ran straight into the horde. Chen laughs, concluding the kid opened the gate for the zombies and is now fleeing in terror. He scoffs, saying running is a basic survival instinct that not even an idiot can fight. But Chen's right-hand man notices something is wrong with the direction the boy is running. The two then realize the protagonist is luring the zombie horde directly to them. The undead mob surges forward, rushing toward the survivors' building, hungry for flesh. Reaching the building's entrance, our hero turns to the men on the roof and asks what they're up to. With an ironic grin, he says he was just trying to be helpful and brought them the zombies they wanted. The horde invades the building, swarming up the stairs toward the rooftop where the survivors are trapped. The group descends into panic, screaming in terror as the zombies close in. Far from the chaos, the protagonist calls everyone to dinner in a new, safe apartment in the complex. They all eat together, thanking the hero for saving them and giving them a new lease on life. The little girl Fei stares at the young man and asks why he's looking at her like that. The protagonist then asks where her school backpack is, leaving the girl utterly confused. He explains that Grandma Liang, a retired teacher, can tutor her even during the apocalypse. The little girl complains to her mother, saying she doesn't want to study during the end of the world. Her mother comforts her, telling her to listen, as studying is the only thing she can still do. And just like that, Lin Fan's Sunshine condominium welcomes 6 new residents, breathing life into the place. The young man then excuses himself to take out the trash and get the girl's backpack, leaving the others at the table. Outside, 2 zombies wander the streets, shambling toward one of the houses in the complex. But before they can get close, 2 precise arrows strike their heads, taking them down instantly. From a window, a young man with a bow celebrates the easy work, remarking that clearing the streets has been a breeze. In a garage, the group from the library discusses their supply situation and the local water treatment plant. Suddenly, a loud noise startles the archer, who wonders what's happening outside. A massive explosion echoes through the streets, drawing the attention of every zombie nearby. The group's leader watches the scene, wondering who in their right mind would cause such a dangerous commotion. Amid the chaos, a woman runs for her life, screaming for help as she's pursued by a swarm of zombies. All at once, a monstrous claw bursts through a zombie's chest, eliminating it in a single blow. A giant, muscular zombie appears before the woman, terrifying everyone who witnesses the sight. The group's leader is shocked by the mutation, wondering if the monsters can truly evolve. Out of nowhere, a moving trash can appears on the street, and a strange noise catches everyone's attention. The woman is startled by the new disturbance, fearing another giant zombie has shown up. The trash can then bumps into the giant zombie, and Linfan apologizes for the collision with a smile. The protagonist then invites the monster on a nightly jog to make up for the accident. The library group's leader recognizes the young man, surprised to see him again in such a situation. One of her men figures he drew the zombie away, and thanks to him, they're now safe. The camera pulls back, showing the protagonist sprinting through the streets with the giant zombie hot on his heels. Tired of running, the protagonist decides to forget the garbage station and find another place to dump the trash. Suddenly, a group of men calls to him from a balcony, asking what he's doing down there. He explains he's just looking for a place to throw out his garbage, since the community dumpster is full. The men laugh at him, mocking the kid for worrying about trash during the apocalypse. The protagonist questions if taking out the trash isn't a normal thing to do and offers to help if they need it. The group's leader gets annoyed with his attitude and threatens him, saying he can send mercenaries after him. Unfazed, our hero simply says goodbye and leaves, infuriating the men with his audacity. The group then decides to lure some zombies over to have fun watching the kid get chased. They start shouting and making noise, hoping to draw the attention of the undead on the street. But to their surprise, the street remains silent with no sign of any zombies. Confused, they wonder if all the zombies have vanished, until one of them spots something approaching. The protagonist then appears on their balcony, telling them not to worry about the zombies outside. He steps into the apartment and says he'll be right back, as he needs to handle a few things first. The group's leader is furious at the intrusion, calling him a rookie for bringing zombies so close. Suddenly, a loud noise from the roof startles everyone, and they realize they aren't alone. One of the men asks what's making so much noise, and they cautiously approach the window to investigate. A monstrous creature with red eyes appears on the roof and roars at the terrified men. Outside, the protagonist observes the scene and comments that the guys seem to be getting along just fine with the zombies. He then hears a strange noise from a nearby bookstore and decides to investigate its source. Approaching the shop, he hears what sounds like a baby's cry and enters to see what's going on. Climbing the bookstore stairs, he wonders if there could really be a baby all alone in here. Upon reaching the top, he's confronted by the sight of a woman with a rope around her neck. He then realizes the child is alive and wonders why the mother would make such a final, drastic choice. The protagonist concludes that the woman simply gave up on caring for her own child. Looking closer, he sees the woman is holding a crying infant in her arms. Gently, he takes the child and comforts it, promising to get them out of this situation. Next to the baby, he finds a diary and decides to read it to understand what happened here. In the diary, the mother explains there's no more food or rescue, and her time is running out. To avoid harming her child, she broke her own teeth and sealed her mouth with duct tape. She then says her final goodbyes, asking whoever finds her child to let him live, even if he's a burden. Moved by the story, the protagonist promises the woman he'll do everything he can to help her son survive. Suddenly, a basketball drops to the floor with a strange thud, startling the young man. He turns to see the ball bouncing by itself on the floor of the dark bookstore and goes on high alert. From the ceiling, a hideous creature with red eyes and sharp teeth leaps down to attack him. Our hero narrowly dodges, realizing this monster is far faster than any zombie he's faced before. He wonders how the baby survived with such a powerful zombie nearby, and an idea strikes him. The protagonist realizes the zombie was using the baby's cries as bait to lure and prey. The creature lunges again, but this time, the young man is ready for a fight and meets it head-on. With a clean strike from his sword, he defeats the evolved zombie, earning 3 points from the system. Holding the baby, he wonders what's going on, since the zombies he's encountered so far weren't intelligent. He concludes the zombie learned to use bait by reading books, proving that knowledge truly is power. Seizing the opportunity, he decides to grab some books and school supplies for little Wei Wei. Meanwhile, in an underground desert base, scientists are analyzing the advancements of the zombie infection. A scientist holds up a red crystal extracted from a mutant zombie's head and examines it. A military officer explains they found the crystal while examining the monster's unusual remains. The scientist then requests a full report on the creature to better understand the mutation. A soldier reports that the first sniper round hit the zombie's head but wasn't enough to stop it. Even with a headshot, the monster kept charging toward the base at high speed. The zombie was only finally taken down after multiple consecutive shots completely obliterated its head. The officer is stunned. Until now, a single headshot was enough to eliminate any zombie. The scientist concludes that the zombies are evolving to become immune to headshots. He worries for the future, as their few remaining contact bases are becoming increasingly isolated. The officer then suggests an idea based on the zombie novels she used to read. She explains that in those books, humans defeat zombies to obtain crystals and evolve into superhumans. The scientist is completely baffled by the idea of using zombie novels as a basis for their research. Far away, a woman in an elegant dress looks out her window and is startled to see someone outside. She's shocked to see Linfan strolling calmly through the zombie-infested streets. The protagonist senses her gaze and turns in her direction, causing her to jump back in fear. The sweets influencer Sushi Axiao hides, terrified of being discovered by the young man. Outside, our hero realizes he's found yet another survivor amidst the apocalyptic chaos. Suddenly, he hears a car engine and turns to see what's happening on the street. A car screeches to a halt in front of a police station, and a group of men hastily jump out. The members of the Huang City gang prepare to enter the building, searching for something. The protagonist waves to the group, smelling the strong scent of blood on them even from a distance. One of the men is surprised to see someone alive and suggests they eliminate him to avoid complications. But their leader says they can't risk alerting the zombies as they're on a mission for the boss. The driver stays in the car, planning to tie the kid to the bumper and let the zombies have him. Suddenly, Lin Fan appears at the car window with a chilling smile, staring at him up close. With an innocent grin, he asks what the group is up to and gives them a friendly greeting. The driver is spooked by his sudden appearance, wondering how the kid got there so fast. Outside, the other gang members are surprised to see the young man chatting with their driver. The man in the car plays it cool, asking if his companions found what the boss wanted. The group's leader confirms it, saying that with the guns they found, they're gonna live comfortably. He then asks the protagonist how he survived all alone, and the young man explains his bizarre tactic. The man is completely baffled by the answer, wondering if he's misunderstanding something. Suddenly, the gang leader points a gun at our hero, threatening him to back off. With a mocking smile, he asks if the kid has any idea what he's holding. Lin Fan then correctly deduces the group broke into the police station to steal firearms and stares them down. The leader gets angry at the accusation, saying there's no such thing as theft in the apocalypse and that he's underestimating them. Before he can fire, the protagonist slices off his arm with a swift, precise motion of his sword. He sarcastically apologizes, saying he got so used to taking down zombies he forgot they were human. Another gang member points a gun at the young man, threatening him for attacking their leader. But before he can pull the trigger, the protagonist cuts his weapon clean in half with a single sword strike. The other gang members are horrified by the young man's speed and power, fearing for their lives. The sound of gunfire attracts the zombies, and the driver screams for his companions to get in the car. A horde of zombies surrounds the vehicle, and the gang members panic at the dangerous situation. The driver then speeds off, abandoning his companions to be devoured by the zombies. The deserted men scream in terror as the horde of undead closes in on them. Surrounded by zombies, they have nowhere to run and are mercilessly attacked by the hungry mob. The protagonist watches the scene, remarking that even the helpful citizens can't resist rushing in to assist. He then vaults over the men, declaring that justice may be slow, but in this world it never fails. With a final farewell, our hero abandons the gang members to their grim fate and walks away. One of the men screams for his companions to grab their guns, but it's already too late. The zombies devour them without mercy, their agonized screams echoing down the dark, empty street. From her window, the influencer Sushiaxia watches the chaos, wondering what's going on. She laments the situation, assuming the young man who caused the commotion must have been devoured by now. All at once, Lin Fan appears at her window with a terrifying smile, startling her as he stares in. The woman is frightened by his appearance, wondering how he managed to get up to the 3rd floor. Our hero then casually sits on her air conditioning unit, deciding to give the woman a moment to calm down. With a plan in mind, he decides he'll visit her every day to show he isn't a threat. Sushiaxio panics, realizing she's been found, and grips a knife tightly. She thinks to herself that she can't escape and would rather harm herself than let him touch her. Meanwhile, in a high-end neighborhood, a blood-soaked car stops, and someone screams in desperation. The bald henchman who fled the police station runs in, warning his boss that something went wrong. The gang leader, a man named Wang Dafu, calmly asks what happened while puffing on a cigar. The man explains they ran into another group at the station and were ambushed. But in his mind, he remembers that he actually abandoned everyone to save his own skin. The boss's silence terrifies the henchman, who knows his superior is incredibly powerful. Coldly, the leader extinguishes his cigar on the man's forehead and asks why he didn't perish with the others. The subordinate endures the pain in silence, afraid that injuring his boss will get him eliminated. Stuttering, he claims he can still be useful and offers to continue being the boss's driver. Wang Dafu dismisses him, and the man scrambles out of the leader's room. Alone, the boss reflects that he needs to be cautious, as there's another powerful group operating in the city. Changing scenes, we see the Sunshine Condominium, where the protagonist lives with the other survivors. One of the elderly women is planting seeds, commenting that she'll need more next time. Meanwhile, the two gentlemen reinforce the gates, ensuring the safety of everyone inside. The retired teacher is tutoring little Feifi, who complains about having to study science. The little girl is overwhelmed by the massive pile of books she has to read. Just then, Lin Fan arrives with a brand new school backpack for the little girl and showers her with praise. Moved by the gift, the girl starts to cry, and the protagonist jokes that she must really love studying. Suddenly, the baby he rescued begins to cry in his arms, catching our hero by surprise. Feifi's mother asks about the child, and he says he wants the former army medic to examine him. The elderly woman who is a doctor approaches and urgently asks him to bring the baby over. A while later, the baby is calmer, but his body is covered in rashes and sores. The ex-medic treats the wound, saying they luckily found him just in time, as the child is very weak. She then asks for the child's name, and the young man says the mother's diary only mentioned Meng Ming. The woman suggests the girl take his last name, but the young man refuses, wanting to honor her mother. Feifei's mother offers to look after the child, since our hero has no experience with infants. He thanks her, suggesting she take the day shift and he'll take the night, but someone urgently calls his name. The protagonist spins around, startled by the shout, and asks what the emergency is. One of the seniors shouts desperately from the barricade, warning that the street is crawling with the undead. Shocked, our hero can't believe it, wondering how it's possible since he had cleared the whole area. He begins to suspect that perhaps the monsters have evolved and now possess some intelligence. At that moment, a truck barrels down the street, dragging a massive horde of zombies behind it. Inside the vehicle, a man in glasses and a cap is honking relentlessly to attract even more attention. The senior explains that the driver was making noise on purpose to lure the zombies away from a store. Peeking through the barricade, the protagonist confirms the story, saying he saw the whole thing too. With the coast clear, a group of survivors emerges from a store to grab supplies. On the security monitors, the seniors notice the truck is making a U-turn and heading back. The young man is confused by the driver's maneuver, unable to understand his plan. The truck then accelerates directly toward the group of survivors outside the store. The men realize the driver is trying to abandon them and start to panic. In a flashback, the driver remembers being with his family at the start of the apocalypse. He had promised his wife and daughter he would return quickly with supplies for them. But when he went out for food, he was surrounded by zombies, and a truck appeared out of nowhere. Two men got out and saved him from the undead with a shield and an iron pipe. Kneeling, he begged them for help and food for his wife and daughter waiting at home. To his surprise, the group's leader agreed to help and invited him to a safe shelter. But when they saw his wife, the men revealed their true intentions and assaulted her. Meanwhile, the driver was tied up, forced to watch helplessly. Desperate, he screamed with all his might, but there was no one around to help him. His wife tried to fight back but was ultimately thrown from the top of a building by her attackers. The woman did not survive the fall, leaving the driver shattered by the men's cruelty. Back in the present, the man swears revenge, vowing that those beasts will not get out of this alive. His eyes filled with rage, he floors the accelerator to run down his former companions. The truck crashes with immense force, causing a massive explosion in front of the condominium. Curious about the noise, Linfan decides to investigate, though one of the seniors tries to stop him. Amidst the wreckage, the driver is surrounded by zombies with no way to escape. Just then, the protagonist appears and tells the zombies to clear out and not cause any trouble. The undead stare at the young man, completely bewildered by his strange request. But the zombies ignore him, advancing and snarling toward our hero. Losing his patience, he remarks that good advice is lost on the doomed and dispatches a monster. The seniors watch on, one of them concluding the young man is a super soldier and the hope for humanity. Outside, the bodies of the driver's former allies are scattered among the debris. Back at the complex, the ex-medic examines the driver, reporting he only has a few scratches. She explains the airbag saved him and the blood was just a nosebleed, much to the young man's relief. Linfan then states that the mess outside needs cleaning, and the driver is the one responsible. The other survivors are speechless, finding his logic strange, yet somehow correct. The man then wakes up, wondering if he might have somehow made it to heaven. The protagonist calmly replies that he's at the Sunshine Condominium, their new home. Next, he orders the man to go clean up the zombie bodies before they start to stink. The driver introduces himself as Chen and says he must rescue his daughter from the villain's Hidyat. But our hero stops him, questioning if he plans to run off after causing such a mess. The young man then proposes a deal. Chen cleans the streets, and in return, the hero will rescue his daughter for a price. A while later, Linfan is walking with a little girl, who asks if her dad really sent him. He confirms it, adding that her dad paid 100 yuan for the service, which confuses the little girl. From a window, the influencer Su Xiaoxiao is startled to see the young man has appeared yet again. She becomes irritated when she sees that this time, he's accompanied by an innocent little girl. The protagonist then looks up, noticing the woman in the window is watching him intently. With a smile, he waves at the woman observing him from the building window. Su Xiaoxiao is terrified by his smile, convinced he's a dangerous maniac. Overcome with fear, she rushes to close the curtains and hide from him as quickly as possible. The woman cries, assuming he's kidnapped the little girl and lamenting her tragic fate. Our hero finds her reaction bizarre, wondering if the apocalypse has made her lose her mind. He decides to ignore her and advises the little girl to stay away from people with mental issues. Meanwhile, the library group drives down a deserted street and spots a horde of zombies. Suddenly, one of the men in the car recoils in shock at what he sees outside. The group's leader from the back seat asks her colleague what's going on. The man points to our hero and the little girl, strolling calmly down the other side of the street. The two are window shopping, and the protagonist offers the little girl a doll. The team leader worries, knowing that if the zombies spot them, they'll be in serious trouble. She tells the driver to honk the horn to lure the zombies away from the pair on the street. But instead of a horn, the group hears children's music, leaving them completely baffled. The protagonist and the girl have activated a singing toy cactus to attract the monsters. The sound of the children's music grabs the attention of every undead creature nearby. In response, a massive horde of zombies begins sprinting toward the noise they made. The monsters completely ignore the car, making a beeline for the shop where the boy and girl are. The man in the car complains that the young man outsmarted them and drew all the zombies to himself. The group in the car realizes they are now surrounded and in a very bad spot. Far away in a desert base, a scientist announces the test results from a zombie crystal. The scientist reveals the crystal's substance is unknown and asks about its stability. The other researcher replies that it's highly stable, with a protective layer as tough as skin. The head of research laments that even with their best equipment, they have no idea what the crystal does. He then asks if the other survivor bases have made any progress in acquiring these crystals. His assistant says no, and that they've concluded only special zombies possess the item. This worries the scientist, as it proves the monsters are evolving, making the future uncertain. Meanwhile, on a building rooftop, a young man with blue hair cheers that he's finally done it. He holds up a red crystal, declaring that just like in the novels, he got it from a zombie. With a malicious gleam in his eye, he plans to absorb the crystal to become stronger and rule the apocalypse. The young man then prepares to ingest the crystal and claim the power he so desperately craves. He shouts that he will become the king of the apocalypse and have any woman he desires. But a moment later, the young man is confused, as it seems nothing has happened to his body. Annoyed, he questions why the crystal is useless, contrary to what his books had promised. Suddenly, a sharp pain pierces his stomach, and he thinks the crystal is finally taking effect. The young man writhes in agony on the ground but believes that if he can endure it, a brilliant future awaits. Moments later, he begins to violently expel a large amount of blood from his mouth. Lying on the ground, he cries and screams that this can't be happening, unwilling to perish like this. And so, the ambitious man meets his tragic end, all alone on the roof of the abandoned building. Back at the Sunshine condominium, a father is reunited with his daughter, and they share an emotional embrace. Feifei's mother worries upon seeing Lin Fan covered in grime, but he assures her it's just zombie blood. The ex-soldier praises the young man's efficiency and tells the newcomer to pay up for the service. A bit embarrassed, the girl's father hands our hero a 100 yuan bill. Lin Fan takes the money with a smile, telling him not to worry about thanks, as it's his job. He explains the money was an advance payment, which shocks the newcomer that he actually accepted it. The man then whispers to the senior, asking if he doesn't find the situation a little strange. The gentleman explains that paying for services is the foundation of order, ensuring they have a future. Another senior adds that at first, they thought the protagonist was crazy, but now they understand his vision. The new resident is confused by the conversation, but feels that it all sounds very profound. Suddenly, the loud chime of a clock tower echoes across the city, capturing everyone's attention. The group recognizes the sound, deducing that someone repaired it to lure the zombies. One of the elderly couples praises the survivor's good deed, saying there is still hope. Meanwhile, numerous zombies with glowing red eyes are roaming the city streets. The bell attracts the attention of the undead horde, which runs toward the sound. Near the tower, the library group celebrates their leader's brilliant plan to use the bell. But the team leader warns that this distraction method won't work forever. She then urges her men on, saying they have only 2 minutes to grab the supplies. All at once, the group's car is lifted off the ground by a mysterious, powerful force. One of the men is terrified by this and screams for his leader to watch out. A giant, muscular green zombie appears and begins attacking the other monsters around it. The monstrous creature effortlessly hurls the smaller zombies aside to clear a path. The giant green monster then leaps with all its might toward the clock tower. With incredible agility, the creature begins to scale the building to reach the top. Arriving at the summit, the mutant zombie lets out a furious roar, ready to destroy everything in sight. Without hesitation, the monster punches the clock tower with immense force, obliterating it. The top of the tower explodes into fragments, and the clock is sent flying from the impact. Lying on the ground, the library group watches in shock, their plan completely ruined. The team's leader loses all hope, wondering if civilization can truly endure. At the condominium, one of the residents laments that the hope the bell brought vanished so quickly. But the ex-soldier insists they must not give up, because true hope still exists. He then explains to the protagonist that hope must be found and then shown to others. The gentleman continues his speech, saying a leader must unite everyone's strength to achieve victory. The protagonist is completely baffled and admits he didn't understand a single word the old man said. Realizing logic won't work, the senior decides he needs to speak in a language he'll understand. He then offers the young man a part-time job earning money by finding survivors. Our hero's eyes light up at the prospect of a job, and he accepts the offer instantly. Thrilled by the chance to earn money, he dashes off to begin his new mission. The senior's wife expresses her concern, but he reassures her the young man is so strong he hardly seems human. Looking to the sky, the ex-soldier reflects that maybe, just maybe, Lin Fan is humanity's last hope. While walking, the protagonist suddenly feels something is off and stops in the middle of the street. A speeding car zips past him, and the young man is impressed by the cool-looking vehicle. From the car, a young man with purple hair invites him to join them so they can survive together. But our hero declines the offer, stating that he's working and already has a place to stay. The driver then floors the accelerator and speeds off, leaving the young man behind. Lin Fan simply watches the car disappear, unconcerned by the situation around him. The woman in the car asks if they're just going to leave him there, but the driver says he refused help. In the rearview mirror, he sees the young man alone and senses he could be a problem for their group. Suddenly, a horde of zombies appears, and the protagonist notices they're moving faster than before. He grumbles that he'll have to clear out the monsters to earn points, and readies himself for a fight. With his sword in hand, our hero confronts the zombie horde, dispatching them with ease. Looking at the bodies on the ground, he concludes the monsters are evolving and becoming stronger. Suddenly, the protagonist whips around, sensing that something is not right in the area. He then spots Enzo's sign in a building window, recognizing it as a plea for help. Inside the apartment, a woman named Su Wanwan is hiding, terrified of something outside. She remembers hearing her agent's voice at the door, but his younger brother was with him. Her agent's brother was looking at her with a strange intensity, and she knew he meant her harm. The woman cries at the thought of her situation, but she knows her intuition about the danger is correct. Outside in the hallway, a man calls out to her, asking if she's still not going to open up. A woman beside him complains about the man, calling him disgusting and noting his creepy smile. The young man is getting annoyed with the locked door and the woman's stubborn refusal to open it. He then mocks her for acting so innocent, saying that in the apocalypse, nobody is a saint. Suddenly, the man shushes the woman, saying he heard a noise from outside. His colleague asks if it's a zombie, but the young man says he doesn't know and they need to check. At that moment, a knock sounds on the door of apartment 1705, drawing their attention. Inside, Su Wanwan cowers in fear, screaming for the person outside to stay away. She then gets angry, assuming it's the same creep from before, and bemoans her bad luck in this apocalypse. Outside, the protagonist hears the screams and wonders if the person inside is in trouble. With a determined look, he decides he can't just stand by, he has to do something. Without a second thought, our hero kicks down the security door with a single, precise blow. The woman is completely stunned by the young man's sudden appearance in her apartment. He tells her not to be nervous, but the woman, armed with a knife, is far from calm. With a smile, the protagonist recognizes her as a dance streamer he used to watch. But the woman panics, threatening to harm herself if he takes one more step toward her. She then remembers a movie she saw and realizes that horrific things can happen in real life too. The young man tries to explain, saying he saw her distress signal and came to help because it's his job. The woman is skeptical, questioning whether a normal human could kick down a security door. Seeing her doubt, our hero celebrates internally, realizing her defenses are starting to crumble. He decides he needs to press his advantage and convince her to trust him. The young man pulls out a flyer, recommending the Sunshine Condominium as a great place to relocate. He describes a community filled with good people, like retired doctors and engineers. And for the finishing touch, he mentions the outdoor gym and the garden they cultivated themselves. He then emphasizes the most important part: the rent is incredibly affordable for everyone. The woman is left speechless by the sales pitch, staring at him in utter confusion. With a smile, he realizes his plan worked and she has finally lowered her guard. The young man then says he understands her fear and that even in the apocalypse, there's still warmth between people. Gently, he takes the woman's hand, asking her to lower the knife and calm down a bit. He then hands her the flyer, telling her to take a closer look at the offer. The streamer takes the paper, staring at it with an expression of total disbelief. Suspiciously, she asks who he really is and what he truly wants from her. Our hero explains he's a real estate agent, and if she's not happy, he has other options she can see. He invites her to sit, celebrating that he's managed to get inside while she was still hesitant. The two sit down, and he shows her the floor plan for an apartment renting for $1,500 a month. He then remembers that the previous tenant was a young woman who passed on the very first day. The woman asks if he's in his right mind, and the young man, irritated, asks if she's insulting him. Before he can leave, she stops him and apologizes, saying she didn't mean to offend him. With a serious expression, the protagonist accepts her apology and looks at her intently. He then says he just wanted to check if she always acts so erratically, which makes her blush. The streamer apologizes again, insisting she didn't mean to insult him and it was all a misunderstanding. The young man then poses a question: aren't the truly abnormal ones the people who've abandoned all rules and common sense? He says that people are the scariest thing out there, and he's just trying to follow the old rules. She agrees with his logic and decides she needs to leave, especially since her door is now broken. The protagonist asks if she'll rent the place, and the woman agrees, saying she believes everything he's told her. He then tells her to pack her bags, a sudden request that confuses her. In her mind, the streamer wonders if this guy is crazy for talking about money during the apocalypse. 10 minutes later, she emerges with her belongings, and our hero asks if she's really taking all of that. The woman confirms it and expresses concern for the other survivors on the floor below. As they descend the stairs, he assures her of his strength, and she scoffs, reminding him of her broken door. Upon reaching the lower floor, the man who had been harassing her suddenly appears before them. The woman is startled by the villain's appearance and quickly ducks behind our protagonist. Armed with a cleaver, the man threatens the young man, declaring he won't be taking the woman anywhere. Lin Fan slips on a pair of sunglasses and faces the aggressor with a smirk. With an intimidating glare, he asks the villain exactly how he plans to make him regret his actions. In a flash, the protagonist disarms the man, effortlessly snatching the cleaver from his hand. The aggressor is completely stunned by the young man's speed and strength, fearing for his life. He wonders how the hero managed to take his weapon before he could even react. With the cleaver in hand, Lin Fan reprimands him for threatening people, reminding him that it's a crime. Both the streamer and the villain are utterly baffled by the young man's lecture on the law. He then hands the knife back to the man, warning him that if he's attacked, he will defend himself, which could get messy. The aggressor holds the cleaver, completely unable to process what just happened in the hallway. Suddenly, the villain's accomplice appears, and the streamer recognizes her as her former agent, Lu Hong. The young woman recalls that the agent used to be like a sister to her, but has now become a horrible person. The protagonist tells the streamer to leave with him as the two villains glare at them. But the aggressor screams in fury, ordering them to stop right where they are. Our hero turns around with a calm expression and asks what the man wants from them. The villain blocks their path, thinking he can't just let her walk away like this. He accuses the young man of taking her for his own selfish reasons, and our hero reprimands him for his disrespect. The aggressor then threatens the woman, saying that if she goes with this guy, a horrible fate awaits her. He claims that in the apocalypse there are no laws, and staying with him is her best and only option. The streamer retorts that she'd rather face the end than be with him, and tells him to stop dreaming. The man becomes enraged, blaming the protagonist for ruining his plans with the woman. Furious, the villain lunges forward with the cleaver to attack our hero and end him once and for all. Seeing this, the streamer panics and screams for the protagonist to be careful. The agent watches, thinking this is the perfect chance for her brother to get rid of the guy. But effortlessly, our hero lands a solid kick on the aggressor, sending him flying. The man crashes through a glass door, which shatters on impact. With a cold look, the protagonist states that it wasn't his fault, it was purely self-defense. The woman is shocked by his strength, realizing he took down the villain in the blink of an eye. Unfazed by the situation, our hero simply motions for her to follow so they can be on their way. The agent rushes to her brother's aid, while the streamer follows the protagonist out of the building. On the stairs, she sees the bodies and asks if he eliminated them, and the young man replies it was in self-defense. The streamer is terrified by the scene, realizing the young man is far stronger than she had imagined. The woman asks him to confirm his job, and he repeats that he's just an employee. She stares at him, wondering if he's really just a common real estate agent. As they walk, he explains that his main job is being a security guard to maintain order. The streamer is shocked to learn he's a security guard and asks if he does deliveries too. Upon his confirmation, she bursts out laughing, realizing she's found a very powerful man. Our hero doesn't understand her laughter, laming that such a nice girl could be so foolish. When they arrive at the condominium, the ex-soldier greets him, saying he's finally getting the hang of things. The old man congratulates him for interacting with a pretty girl, which makes him blush. He then whispers in the young man's ear, advising him to enjoy life while he's still young. The gentleman jokes, imagining an elderly version of our hero unsuccessfully trying to flirt with a girl. In his imagination, the young woman turns him down, and old Lin Fan tries to win her over with his minimum wage salary. Back in the present, the protagonist yells at the old man, asking what on earth he's talking about. Just then, Fifey's mother calls the young man to come eat with the other residents. Our hero introduces the streamer to the cook and her daughter Fifey, who are on the balcony. The little girl compliments the newcomer's beauty, saying the protagonist must like her a lot. The streamer is flustered by the compliment and says that little Fifey is also very cute. Next, he introduces her to the network specialist and his daughter, as well as the 4 seniors. The elderly couple praises the new resident, commenting that the young man has excellent taste in women. Everyone then sits down to eat together, and Fifey's mother serves them all. The table is laden with a variety of delicious dishes for all the new residents. The streamer compliments the food, and the cook remarks that even in the apocalypse, it's a fine meal. The woman gets emotional, thinking that she made the right bet and our hero has brought her to paradise. The ex-soldier asks how she managed her water supply before, and she admits she's not sure. She explains the tap water seemed drinkable, and though she was scared, she drank it and was fine. Another resident is surprised as they had only been using the purified water the protagonist brought. The senior then reflects that the water from the treatment plant undergoes several processes to be purified. From this, he suspects there must be survivors at the plant keeping the treatment process operational. The other gentleman agrees, worrying that if their food supply runs out, they won't survive. The protagonist then announces he'll go check on the station, as he knows its exact location. The streamer expresses her concern, asking if it wouldn't be dangerous to go there alone. He reassures her, saying he's going anyway because maintaining clean water is crucial. Finishing his meal, the young man announces he's heading to the station and that he runs errands for 100 per trip. Excited by the opportunity, the other residents start placing their orders with our hero. The new resident asks if he's a super soldier, and the old man replies that she'll have to find out for herself. And so, the protagonist departs on his new mission, heading toward the water treatment plant. Inside, a bald man layman's having to live alone amidst filth and garbage. The station's administrator, Wong Kai, is exhausted and appears extremely weak. He then confides in his dog, saying he doesn't think he can hold on for much longer. Desperate, the man says he's just an ordinary person and simply can't continue anymore. But he thinks of the other survivors and resolves to keep fighting so they can have water. Suddenly, the dog dashes out of the room and begins to hum a cheerful tune. The ringtone of a cell phone strapped to the dog attracts a horde of zombies, which chase it through the station. From the doorway, the administrator watches the scene, lamenting his lack of food and strength. He then draws inspiration from the dog's courage, deciding he can't give up so easily. The dog continues to run with the cell phone ringing, luring all the zombies in the station. But suddenly the dog stops and growls, sensing a strange and dangerous presence nearby. A speed-type evolved zombie appears before it with a hungry and menacing look. The creature then begins to chase the dog, which runs for its life to avoid being devoured. With nowhere to run, the dog cowers in a corner, terrified of the approaching monster. At that moment, the protagonist arrives on his bicycle, finding the evolved zombie quite odd. He then waves at the monster and greets it in a friendly manner, as if nothing is wrong. The zombie is confused by the young man's behavior and lunges to attack him with its sharp claws. Our hero dodges, asking the creature not to be so hasty, as he doesn't want to fight. He then warns that if he's attacked, he will fight back, and it might not end well for the monster. With a single swipe of his sword, he eliminates the zombie, earning 3 system points for the victory. A glowing red crystal then materializes from the monster's vanquished body on the station floor. The protagonist scolds the zombie's remains, saying he warned it not to attack him so casually. The dog approaches our hero and barks, as if thanking him for the help. The young man pets the dog and asks it to lead him to the other survivors. And so the two of them head back toward the condominium together, the cell phone still ringing. As he pedals, our hero kicks away zombies and continues on his way with the dog. He's impressed by the dog's intelligence, as it guides him while skillfully dodging obstacles. The dog then leads him into a dark, trash-filled room in the water treatment plant. Inside, the dog starts walking in circles and barking excitedly to get his attention. The protagonist pets the dog and says he'll follow wherever it leads him. The dog then guides our hero to the chlorination room, where the administrator is hiding. Inside, the man is lamenting that he's been discovered and doesn't know what happened to his dog. He panics, realizing that if the dog returns, there will be no one to open the door for it. Suddenly, he hears a bark and is startled by the unexpected noise from outside. He assumes he's hallucinating, thinking it's impossible for the dog to be there. Just then, a voice calls out to him, and he despairs, thinking his hallucination is getting stronger. The door is then blown off its hinges with tremendous force, sending debris flying everywhere. The protagonist enters, introducing himself as a nice guy who's just looking for survivors. The man weeps, convinced it's a hallucination because the zombies must have already broken in. Our hero then comforts him, assuring him that he's safe now and has nothing more to fear. Overcome with emotion, the man hugs him and cries with relief, finally rescued. Back at the condominium, the administrator eats a real meal, praising the flavor of the food. The two little girls are chatting, and one jokes that he's the reincarnation of a rice ball. The protagonist then asks Fei why she calls the other girl sister when she's older. The little one then whispers in his ear that the other girl has already been completely tamed. The dog is confused, since his owner was happily eating kibble with him just that morning. The administrator apologizes, saying he was just so hungry he ended up overeating. The cook comforts him, saying that being able to eat is a blessing and he shouldn't worry. The ex-soldier thanks him for his work at the station, and the man says it was simply his duty. The gentleman then praises him for saving everyone, as water is the most precious resource in the apocalypse. The protagonist then invites him to move into the condominium, and says he'll find a place for him. The man is completely bewildered by the offer, not understanding what the young man is talking about. The senior explains that our hero is in the rental business and paying for services is normal here. The administrator says he understands, and yet doesn't understand, the logic of this community. Fei's mother tells him he'll get used to it, and that Mr. Wong understands the protagonist best. The old man praises him for his courage, saying it makes him really like the new resident. He then recalls a timid war buddy who sacrificed himself to save everyone. At a critical moment, the soldier made a run with a bomb and single-handedly blew up an enemy tank. The gentleman says he realized that people show their true courage when it matters most. The administrator concludes that the old man is some kind of life mentor and listens to him intently. The protagonist offers him an apartment for $1,400 a month and asks how he plans to pay. The man is embarrassed, admitting he has no money since it's worthless in the apocalypse. The senior then says he'll cover the rent, and the administrator can pay him back with his salary. The man is confused, wondering where a salary would come from in the middle of the world's end. He changes the subject, asking the young man if he knows how to deal with the city's zombies. With a confident smile, the protagonist says he's very strong, and everyone here already knows that. The ex-soldier confirms the young man's statement, and the administrator watches, still very confused. At this, the women of the community also nod in agreement, smiling in support. The streamer then reflects that he's more than strong, he's an absolute monster. The administrator then asks the hero to accompany him to the station daily for inspections. The young man agrees without issue, and says he's heading to his room since there's nothing else to do. He then asks the gentleman who that young man is, and the senior replies that he and all of them are heroes. The ex-soldier motivates everyone to work together to improve their community for the future. Meanwhile, at the desert base, scientists continue their research on the zombies. A researcher reports that data from other bases has shown no effects from the crystals. A scientist then reveals that a soldier volunteered for an experiment, but it was unsuccessful. The soldier began to boil from the inside and didn't last more than 3 minutes during the test. She concludes the human body cannot withstand the crystal and presents a summary of zombie types. The first is the strength type, which can lift a 2-ton car and is immune to common bullets. The second is the speed type, which can run at 150 kilometers per hour without tiring. The third is the screamer type, which emits a sound of 120 decibels, causing pain and nausea. The researcher warns that if the sound reaches 160 decibels, it can rupture eardrums. The head scientist laments the situation, wondering if humanity has any hope left. Elsewhere in the city, several zombies with bizarre appearances roam the deserted streets. From a window, a soldier named Gu Hang observes the situation outside through binoculars. He lives in his apartment with 5 other survivors, a pregnant woman and her husband. The woman's husband asks how things are looking, and the soldier says the situation is not good. He then asks about his wife, and the man says she's better but is due to give birth soon. The soldier comforts him, telling him not to worry, as he's there to help with whatever is needed. He's concerned because childbirth during the apocalypse is dangerous and could attract a lot of zombies. The soldier then decides to go out for supplies, and his friend offers to go with him. The man asks him to be careful, telling him to flee if he encounters any zombies. His friend warns him about the legend of a man with a sword who roams the city streets. He explains that everyone calls him the immortal ghost of the apocalypse, due to his strength and courage. The soldier is confused by the story, not understanding the combination of such strange words. Back at the condominium, the protagonist goes about his daily chores of patrolling and working. The ex-soldier watches him, reflecting that he's the busiest among them and perhaps their last hope. The retired teacher is helping the 2 little girls solve a math problem. Fei-Fei's mother is helping the senior lady in the garden, who is grateful for the extra pair of hands. The streamer then approaches the protagonist, striking up a conversation as he walks. She asks him not to be so formal with her, and the young man agrees with a smile. The protagonist then calls her by a cute nickname, which makes her blush. The woman then asks if he believes the city will return to normal, as Mr. Wong says. She admits that before, she wouldn't have believed it, but after meeting them, she now has hope. The young man smiles, saying she already knows the answer and that faith is all it takes to succeed. She then questions why he works for money in the middle of the apocalypse. He explains he's afraid he won't be able to readjust to normal life when things go back to the way they were. With a smile, she asks if he has a girlfriend, and the protagonist bluntly says no. The woman then offers herself up, asking if he's ever considered dating, but he turns her down. Shocked by the rejection, she's left speechless, not understanding what just happened. He then justifies himself by saying he's still very young, only 20 years old. Our hero says goodbye, announcing he's off to clear zombies from the neighborhood to make the city safer. She then realizes he has the ambition to clear the entire city and admires his foresight. Far away, the influencer Su Xiaoxiao watches our hero from the window of an abandoned cafe. She wonders why he isn't afraid of the zombies and if he knows a way to avoid them. The protagonist spots her and laments that mental issues are hard to treat with just medicine. He then decides to clear the zombies from the nearby shops to help the woman's recovery. From her window, the influencer panics when she sees him draw his sword, thinking he's about to attack her. Our hero remembers the promise he made and decides he needs to give her a smile every day. He then flashes a wide, terrifying grin in the direction of the woman watching him from afar. The woman is so frightened by his smile that she falls backward, certain he has malicious intentions.